You're watching Fuse TV. I'm here at Troy Oullette at his studio. You mentioned the assemblage theory, and I guess there's a particular balance in the way that we perceive our natural world and how that, in turn affects your theoretical approach.
Yeah, I'm really getting assemblage from Manuel de Landa. He theorized that assemblage, he considers 5 main points of assemblage. Things like coding. So imagine, a bird is whistling out there in nature. It's got a coded kind of relationship with the rest of the birds that it's trying to communicate with, right? Material, as our vocal cords vibrate, as we're expelling, air, as we're pursing our lips to produce and pronounce certain sounds, the phoneme or whatever of it, the phonetic quality of it is very physical. It's very material-like. The next one would be, say, expressive. So every single thing around here expresses itself in a certain way. Every physical material expresses itself in a certain way, but there could be social groups that could express themselves in certain ways. Territorialization would be things like an invasive species. If you think of ecology, if we go back to that, an invasive species coming into a forest, sort of dislodging what has been there for maybe thousands of years in a symbiotic relationship somehow. That's ever changing. But if an invasive species comes in, it sort of territorializes that, and that area becomes deterritorialized. Systems aesthetics and complexity, those things really come out of the 1960s and 70s when computers were first introduced to kind of take account of all the different variables. I've just started this series of balloons, these large weather balloons, and they're sort of about the economy, because they're about inflation, deflation, stagflation, those kinds of things. Okay. But they're also about, metaphorically, but they're also about a kind of a meme, an environmental meme, where when we were starting to send up the first weather balloons and that, we were looking at, okay, how is weather changing? How do cloud formations move? What's the jet stream look like? We were interested in all these things. I wanted to approach painting in a different way, not just, with a brush. I wanted to see how paint would react when it's layered. I wanted to see how paint would react when it was being resisted by something. This idea of resistance is obviously connected to all kinds of, social resistance. I draw this prototyping board, right? So it's something like this, and prototyping boards, you've probably used them in the past to build circuits, right? Sure. They have a certain capacity to them. They have a certain potential to them. It's what we create as individuals and collectives and as a body that informs where we go next. So there's this notion of futurity, what's the next step? And what we do now does have ramifications, it does change things. The circuit boards are used to trace onto the paper, so I put them underneath the paper, and they become, in almost all of my works, you'll see a circuit board trace underneath. I think about how the graphite, when I'm using graphite as a material, getting back to material again, de Landa, right? It has a capacitance to conduct electricity. So I did a number of works where I was using graphite records, and I could put an old mechanical pencil of my dad's, because both my parents were artists, so I had all these old pencils sticking, around the studio, and so I would produce an electrical circuit through the graphite. Okay. And the sound would be picked up and then amplified. I wish I could say that, I have a clear direction. If I ever had that, I think my art would be done. Once you put work out into the world, you don't know what's going to happen. It might go to a collector. All of a sudden, the collector is the caretaker of the work. It doesn't get seen for 100 years, then it goes into a public collection, hopefully, right? Or it gets burnt in a log pile or something. Seek out people that have experience in the art world. Seek out people that have certain insights about the art world. They don't always have to be professors. They don't always have to be teachers. They can just be people that have similar interests. These could be collectives that facilitate media arts, for instance, or they could be collectives that facilitate just sound work. We are a society that is made up of a whole bunch of different ideas that stem from long lineages of other cultures coming into Canada. We embrace that as a real strength. Nothing's going to happen collectively unless there's some real energy, and it does take a lot of energy, because anybody anybody who joins a collective knows that they have to volunteer their time. When I was a student, I had a lot more time, and I wish I would have was seeking out those people. I used to go to art shows all the time when I was a student, so I have no regrets there whatsoever. But that would be the advice I would give, is to, if you're really interested in creativity in the arts, say it's music or whatever, then go out there and seek out people and go to concerts and do as much as you can while you can. It's not always going to last, and it's going to ebb and flow throughout your life.